Hello all, and thanks for joining our session here today. My name is Ole Petter Johnson. I'm the technical sales engineer here at Cloudian for the Nordics. And today we are going to talk a bit about Cloudian, and we are also going to have a deeper look into our product HyperIQ that will enable our customers to get to know their data better. So first off, a short introduction to Cloudian here. So at Cloudian, we basically have three products. We have our main product, the Hyperstore. That's the on-prem S3-based object storage. We also have a product called Hyperfile. That's a NAS gateway for application that needs to access the object storage, but not natively can talk with the S3 APIs. And lastly, we have the HyperIQ. That's our monitoring and analyzing tool that our customers using to get to know their data better. As you can see here, we have some strategic partners that we work with. One of them is of course Amazon. Since we are a S3-based object storage platform, Amazon is really important, of course, because as you know, Amazon is the founders of the S3 API, and they are in total charge of the development of the S3 API as well. To get things started here, we're going to look at some of the use cases our customers are using Cloudian Hyperstore for as of today. So a big portion of those customers are using us for backup workloads. So of course the Rubrik, the Commvault, Veeam, Veritas installations out there, they all support to tier data for long-term retention to an object storage-based system. And Cloudian is a really good fit for that workload, of course. We also have other customers using us for content repositories, for media files or for other type of archives, also video surveillance and so on. Big data and analytics, that's a really growing market. We see a lot of more integration into object storage and a lot more use of object storage in those workloads as well. And it's other thousands of other applications out there that's developed to leverage object storage and are natively speaking with object storage APIs. Internet of Things, of course, is huge. And lastly, we have the service providers leveraging, for example, Cloudian to provide object storage or S3 as a service. And there is really important to have a big integration into the S3 API and be 100% S3 native, of course, because your end customers want to have all the possibilities from the service providers that they also can get from the public cloud, of course. And when we talk about being S3 native, why that's really so important is because if you're not S3 native, you can struggle with some of the API sets of Amazon S3s. Amazon S3 is combined of over 400 different API calls, but actually to get that S3 stamp, you really just need to be able to do 3 S3 API calls. That's a put, it's a get, and it's a delete. And then you get that S3 compliant stamp. But of course, your customers is using Amazon, for example, today, and are used to those 400 sets of API calls, and their applications are using multiple API calls to really use and leverage the smartness in the storage. And then, therefore, it's not good enough to just be S3 compliant, but you really need to be S3 native. Take multi-part upload, for example, like we see here on this slide as an example. If you're not native S3 and using a gateway solution to translate S3 to another legacy back in the object storage API, you most probably are not supporting the multi-upload API calls in S3. Here we can look at a bit of what's make Cloudian special and compares to other S3 vendors and also Amazon themselves. So the beauty of Cloudian is that you can choose how you want to protect your data in the backend. We support both replication factors and erasure coding and multiple different schemes of them. Within the same system, you can mix and match them within the same system or cluster, and it's really granular based on a bucket level. So for example, with a distributed erasure coding, we can have up to 14 nines in terms of durability. If we look to public Amazon, they only support up to 11 nines. So you can actually build a more redundant S3 setup in your on-prem owned data center or for a service provider running that as a service than Amazon themselves do. Of course, we also support encryption and ACLs, And we also support tiering to the public cloud. So you can actually do native tiering from our on-prem cloud system to Amazon, to Azure, or to GCP, or other S3 compliant storage out there. To take this a bit further, we have some more functionality that makes us quite unique in the market out there. Of course, we have our HyperIQ that we are going to look closer into today, but we also, since day one, have native multi-tenancy in our system. This means that you can easily leverage one system for multiple customers or for multiple workloads, set quotas, set QoS on the system, and really do and leverage the system all across all your applications. We can also do inbuilt chargeback, so you can charge your customers for use based on storage capacity or on network usage in the system as well. And this starts to bring us into HyperIQ. So HyperIQ is our external monitoring and analyzing software for Cloud and HyperStore. So HyperIQ gives you intelligent monitoring, predictive maintenance, and user behavior analytics. Together with the Cloud and HyperStore manageability with the Cloudian management console, where you administrate your users and buckets. And of course, all Cloudian systems do phone home or smart support, as we call it in Cloudian. So every system logs and send logs to us every day. And from these logs, we are using AI to do trending and analytics and global learning, and we're providing health checks and status updates to our customers. Also, if it's anything wrong in the system, the smart support will also automatically create support tickets, and it will get solved by our support organization, of course. So let's have a closer look into HyperIQ then. So HyperIQ comes in two versions. We have the HyperIQ Basic and the HyperIQ Enterprise. The HyperIQ Basic is free of use for all customers running a Cloud and HyperStore. The HyperIQ Enterprise has a small license fee based on raw capacity in your cluster. And I will show you more what you will get with the basic version and what you will get only with the enterprise version. So to start off, here we have the first dashboard. That's the HyperIQ main. That's part of the HyperIQ basic licensing, so this is free for everybody to use. This will give you an overview of the status on what's actually going on in the cluster, both from a software and a hardware perspective. So it will tell you about the capacity, your uptime, number of nodes, network traffic, and so on. And here we can drill down and really go down to last minutes or last seconds to see actually what's going on in the system. And it gives you deep dive analytics on how your cluster is performing, if you have any bottlenecks or any other kind of problems in your system. You can select what you want to view. So if you have multiple regions, you can drill down on a regional level. You can drill down on a data center level or individual nodes. You can also select the point in time you want to view, from real time to really historic data going many years back in time. So that's the HyperIQ main dashboard. The second dashboard is the services. So HyperStore is combined of many different services. We, for example, have the admin service. That's our admin API doing all of the backend stuff and has its own API. We have the Cloudian S3. That's of course the front end S3 API. And we have Cassandra for metadata, we have identity management, we have HyperStore that's taking care of actually storing the data with ratio coding or replication factor in the system. And the services dashboard gives you an overview and in-depth detail on the usage of all of these services. Not only the uptimes, but you can see which of the services are using the most CPU out of your nodes, the memory, and so on. So this is a really good place to look into your performance numbers of the cluster in the total as well. And as well here you can drill down to region, data center, node, and even the individual service. And of course you can select the time frame you want to view this. The third dashboard is the hardware dashboard, and this is only in use for our customers that are running the engineered Cloudian appliances. So if you're running software only, we will not be able to see this. But on the appliances, we have integrated HyperIQ with our IP sensors in the system. And this will give you an overview of temperatures, fan speed, power usage, and so on the physical appliance that you are running Cloudian Hyperstore on. And as well here you can drill down into a deeper level, select your time frame, and so on. And this is also part of the basic version of HyperIQ. The next dashboard is the Cassandra. So in Cloudian Hyperstore we are using Cassandra to storing our metadata. So it's also important to be able to monitor Cassandra, see what's going on, plan for your growth of your metadata drives in your system, of course. And this dashboard gives you that insight. So here you can see that what's actually going on in Cassandra, if you have any failures, writing data into Cassandra, and so on in your system. And again, you can also do the drill down here. So this is the basic version of HyperIQ, what I'm showing you here. And our customers are really glad to have this opportunity to give them really good analytics on actually how the cluster is performing itself. You can set up alerting, of course traditional through email, or you can integrate it with applications like Zoom, Slack, PagerDuty, and so on. So lastly, let's go in and look at S3 Analytics. And this is actually the HyperIQ Enterprise version. So when you unlock the license for HyperIQ Enterprise, you will get and see data in the S3 Analytics dashboard as well. And this is actually analyzing the user behavior of the S3 API. So here we're actually looking into analyzing the S3 API itself. First of all, let's see a couple of more days back in time, for example 7 days. And we can see here that we can drill down on a user level or on a bucket level itself. So the last 7 days, this cluster we are looking into now have had 17 active users. Those 17 users used 62 different buckets. They downloaded only 6.9 megabytes of data and uploaded 4 gigabytes of data. We can here see that the backup ADM user is the most used user that have pushed over 65,000 objects to the system. And we can also see that the Veeam bucket 01 is actually the most used bucket. And this is because in my setup here, we are running Veeam backup and replication, for example, leveraging the object storage for long-term retention. It could also be Rubrik, it could be Cohesity and other vendors as well. We can here see what client is actually generating this data, and you can compare this and do deep dive analytics and see the usage pattern of the application itself. We can also see what part of the S3 API is being used. So we can see that the most used API call here is put object retention. And that's actually S3 object lock that we use for creating immutable backups together with Veeam, for example, or other backup softwares out there. And you can really drill down to in detail on these settings here. You can see here that we can see that the backup ADM user has a total storage of 47 gigabytes in the system. You can see the number of gets it's doing. You can see the number of puts it's doing. And you can really go into detail and actually learn the workflow of your application. So for example, if you are a service provider, this will give you a really good value, because as a service provider, you are providing an S3 as a service, but you really not always know what actually the customer are using the object storage for. So this will give you an insight and help you to scale and provide the best possible solution and service for your customer. So that's our session for today. If you have any questions at all, please stop by our booth or chat room and reach out to us. Talk to me, talk to Ulrich, and we will help you out and tell you more about Cloudian as well if you have any questions. Thanks for now.